From the Broadcast Center at BCIT's Burnaby Campus, this is All Talk Radio. You're listening to 1680 The Crow.
Good afternoon. I'm Amelia Francis Fincham with your news updates to noon. The Canadian Food Inspection Agency has confirmed that a second BC farm tested positive for the avian flu. This case was found in Kelowna. A statement from the Ministry of Agriculture says that it is working closely with the BC poultry farmers to ensure protection measures are in place. The infected flock has since been quarantined, and the statement says farmers within a 12-kilometer radius have been notified. The ministry says a bald eagle was also recently found in Delta that tested positive for the avian flu. This is the second case amongst wild birds in BC since February. Owners of flocks have been asked to watch for signs of the illness and eliminate the chance for contact with any wild birds. A bylaw banning political signs from private property is being challenged in court today after a protest organization filed a petition against the regulation. Reporter Maham Hashmi has more.
The trial started at 10 a.m. this morning in the Supreme Court of BC after an organization called Keep the RCMP in Surrey filed a petition against the bylaw. The City of Surrey's councillor Linda Annis hopes to see the protest group succeed in court today.
I am hopeful that the Keep the RCMP folks will be successful today, because I do believe that this is blatantly undemocratic, and it's a problem. We should be able to express our own opinion about political messaging on our front lawns with no interference from the city or from government.
The bylaw was amended back in October last year by Surrey's Mayor Doug McCallum and his council. Maham Hashmi, 1680 The Crow.
And we are now joined by Maham Hashmi. Thanks for joining us, Maham.
Yeah, of course.
Can you tell us what the group is protesting?
Yeah, they're fighting to prove that the bylaw is an infringement on residents' rights to freedom of expression under the Charter.
How did this bylaw pass?
This bylaw was amended in a 5-4 majority vote supported by the mayor and his council.
Okay, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
A 38-year-old man was killed in Kelowna last night. Police responded to multiple 911 calls about a man who was injured off Highway 97. When officers arrived at the scene, they saw the victim had been stabbed multiple times. He was then taken to the hospital where he died from his injuries. A 22-year-old man who was at the scene was arrested and is currently in police custody. A protest is planned outside Canada Post today after they are refusing to deliver certain parts to Vancouver's downtown east side. Evan Tate reports.
The protest comes after multiple weeks of Canada Post failing to deliver mail along 2 blocks of Hastings Street over safety concerns. Dave Ham, a spokesperson for Vancouver Network of Drug Users, a planner of the protest, says fighting for their rights is nothing new.
Well, just as usual, that we won't sit here and just be treated like second-class citizens. We know our rights, and we have the right to having our mail just as anyone else.
People living in the area now need to walk 2 kilometers to the Canada Post offices to receive their mail. For many, this includes a paycheck, welfare, or disability check. Evan Tate, 1680, The Crow.
Ryerson University has officially changed its name to Toronto Metropolitan University. The school board voted to change the name last year in August after concerns were raised about who the school was named after. Egerton Ryerson was the primary architect for the residential school system, and so many times staff and students have been protesting the name for over the last decade. A cabinet minister says the government will need to find a balance between transparency and security when it comes to the information they will be sharing about their use of the Emergencies Act. Mark Holland says the current inquiry into the declaration will give investigators access to classified documents.
The most important thing that we can do is make sure the public has all the information they need to see clearly why decisions were made and how they were made. But we also know that we have to protect the national security. Those are difficult things to balance. I think in Canada we've done it exceptionally well.
It still hasn't been clarified if the private files of the Trudeau cabinet will be available. Former Quebec Premier Jean Charest plans to get rid of the carbon tax that was implemented by the Liberals. This is a promise he has made in his running for the Conservative leadership.
We want to keep it simple and as direct as possible. And, we feel that if we go down this route, we're going to be more efficient, more flexible, able to achieve better results, quite clearly, than if we go down the route of a more complex consumer tax.
If he wins the election in September, Charest says he plans to continue his targets to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 2030. There are a few Canadian connections to the news about Twitter's takeover by Elon Musk. Karen Rabeau has the story.
Beyond Elon Musk's Canadian citizenship, Royal Bank of Canada and CIBC are two of the 12 banks offering Musk financing for his bid. A commitment letter filed by Musk's X Holdings 3 LLC shows RBC offered $750 million US and CIBC pledged $400 million. Just after Musk's bid was accepted yesterday, the billionaire tweeted he plans to make Twitter better than ever by making the algorithms open source to increase trust, defeating the spam bots, and authenticating all humans.
U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris has tested positive for COVID-19 today. Karen Travers reports.
Her office says in a statement she's exhibited no symptoms and will isolate and continue to work from her residence. The vice president's office also says Harris has not been a close contact to President Biden or the First Lady due to their respective travel schedules recently. Her spokeswoman says she'll return to the White House when she tests negative. Harris has received 4 COVID-19 vaccine shots, the original 2-dose vaccine and 2 booster shots, the most recent administered on April 1st. Karen Travers, ABC News, Washington.
A Jewish civil rights organization says an annual tally of anti-Semitic incidents in the U.S. has reached a record high. Jackie Quinn tells us more.
The civil rights group finds more than 2,700 cases of assault, harassment, and vandalism were reported in 2021, the highest number on record, and a 34% increase over the prior year. The Anti-Defamation League cites in part a sharp rise in the month of May when scores of Palestinians and more than a dozen Israelis were killed during a military action by Israel. Last May in Los Angeles, Jewish people were attacked outside a restaurant by people said to be waving Palestinian flags. And a Jewish man in New York was beaten and pepper sprayed on his way to a pro-Israel rally. I'm Jackie Quinn.
And for the weather today, there's a risk of thunderstorms later today with a highs of 11 degrees expected for this afternoon. And that's all for me today. I'm Amelia Francis Fincham. You're listening to 1680 The Crow.
Stay tuned for more on BCIT's 1680 The Crow.
This is sports on 1680 The Crow.
Good afternoon. Welcome back to 1680 The Crow. My name is Ryan Bailey with your 1210 sports headlines. The Vancouver Canucks hit the ice again tonight against the Seattle Kraken, but they'll be without goaltender Thatcher Demko. Head coach Bruce Boudreau made the announcement at the Canucks press conference today.
He's being evaluated. Right now it's just day to day, you know. He's got a little bit of a ouch, but he's not going to be playing tonight.
The Canucks are sitting 6 points back of the Dallas Stars for the final wild card spot. However, with just 3 games left to play, each one is a must-win. Captain Bo Horvat is also out, as well as Niels Höglander and Tucker Poolman. Puck drop is at 7 p.m. at Rogers Arena. Lots of hockey going on today with 26 teams in action. Connor McDavid and the Edmonton Oilers are in Pittsburgh to take on Sidney Crosby's Penguins squad. The Dallas Stars hope to hold on to their playoff spot, but they'll have to fend off the Vegas Golden Knights tonight, who sit just 3 points behind them. Division winners Calgary Flames play Nashville and will give us a preview of their expected first-round matchup. And the Leafs will host the Red Wings with many more games going on. Russia has lost another international sporting event today. It was announced this morning that the 2023 World Ice Hockey Championship will no longer be held in St. Petersburg as was once planned. According to the International Ice Hockey Federation, the freedom and movement of the athletes and officials is of concern. This is another major sporting event that has been relocated as a result of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The 2023 World Juniors Hockey Championship, which was supposed to be held in Russia, was also canceled about a month ago. 3 NBA playoff games going on tonight. The Miami Heat have the chance to eliminate the Atlanta Hawks on home court. That game starts at 4. At 4:30, the Minnesota Timberwolves and Memphis Grizzlies will break the 2-2 series tie. And the New Orleans Pelicans and Phoenix Suns will look to do the same at 7 o'clock in Phoenix. One more bit of basketball news. Chicago Bulls guard Zach LaVine is expected to miss tomorrow's all-important Game 5 due to health and safety protocols. Champions League semi-final action kicked off about 10 minutes ago with Manchester City hosting Real Madrid. Man City manager Pep Guardiola says it is an honor for them to be at this stage of the tournament.
It's an honor to be here, as always, in semi-finals against, of course, Real Madrid, like would be Barcelona, Bayern Munich, Liverpool, teams like in all history in Europe have been many times. The last decade we are there, we start to be there, so it's an honor to be here.
Tomorrow you can see the other matchup between Liverpool and Villarreal at noon. Lots of news from the tennis world as we got confirmation from 3 major players that they will be returning to play. Rafael Nadal announced on Twitter that he will be returning to the APT Tour at this weekend's Madrid Open. Nadal was sidelined by a rib injury for a month. He has won this tournament 5 times in his career, most recently in 2017. Novak Djokovic has been approved to play at Wimbledon this year. Tournament organizers will not require athletes to be vaccinated, and Britain does not require travelers to be vaccinated. Djokovic made headlines in January at the Australian Open for his position against the vaccine. Roger Federer also announced his return. Federer, who has not played since he lost at Wimbledon in July, will be back at the Swiss indoors in October. And for the upcoming 2022 Davis Cup final, Canada was drawn into a group with Spain, Serbia, and South Korea. Round-robin matches will kick off mid-September. The Toronto Argonauts have signed former NFL running back Javon Leake. The 23-year-old Maryland alumni was a part of the Detroit Lions organization in 2021 and played 1 game with the now Washington Commanders. In Geneva, Switzerland, Canada's Jocelyn Peterman and Brett Gallant improved their record to 5-1 at the Mixed Doubles Curling Championship. A big 10-1 victory over the Hungarians started the day, and a 10-4 win against the Czech Republic capped off the day. Canada is in second place in Group B, behind Scotland, who is the only team to beat Canada so far. Scotland kept its perfect record today at 6-0. Actress Reese Witherspoon is now a part owner of Nashville SC. The MLS team announced today that 3 new investors have joined the ownership group. Along with Witherspoon, her husband Jim Toth has joined, as well as Tennessee Titans running back Derrick Henry. Witherspoon said in the announcement, "As a Tennessee native, it is thrilling to see how much growth and development has come to our state." That will do it from me today. Thank you for joining me, Ryan Bailey, for 1680 The Crow.
Stay tuned for more on BCIT's 1680 The Crow.
Everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really
Hey there, welcome to For the Record. I'm your host, Sadie Chung. You're listening to 1680 The Crow. Charmaine Brett Mills joins us today. Charmaine brings more than 20 years of experience in international humanitarian relief. She's the executive director of Veterinarians Without Borders Canada, which has just recently deployed Canadian vets to the Polish-Ukraine border to support the provision of animal health care to pets fleeing war action with their owners. Thanks for joining us today, Charmaine.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So why don't you start off by telling me about what sparked the initiative in deploying vets to the Polish-Ukraine border?
Veterinarians Without Borders Canada is a member of VSF International, which is a network of 13 organizations that all have very similar mandate to serve animal welfare and animal health organizations internationally. Vets Without Borders Canada is a very unique organization because we not only work internationally, but we also have the opportunity to work in our own backyard in Northern Canada, and we've been doing so since 2019. We offer remote animal health clinics to communities who have requested it in the north. Internationally, we are working in South Sudan, Kenya, Senegal, Ghana, and in Cambodia, Laos, and Vietnam. And our programming there has really been backboned on a volunteer sending type model, where we've been offering technical animal health experts to our local partners and really helping them build their capacity. Our mission embodies One Health and localization. So really working through local partners to ensure we have a sustainable approach. In South Sudan, we've had a little bit more of an emergency type lens to our work as it's an ongoing emergency setting, which has really helped us to be able to launch our programs in Ukraine for this current response efforts.
So what exactly do your response efforts consist of?
So as soon as the war began, we started to look at how we can support the situation on the ground, and really piggybacking on our expertise in localization, we began to search and find animal health organizations within the Ukraine and identify ones that were needing support and ones that were really becoming the backbone of the communities. I've been very impressed by the organization of the Ukrainian population and how they've quickly come to the table to support the animal health needs. We've been able to partner with some really key groups in country. One organization that I spoke with yesterday has had over 700 requests to support animal health centers, shelters, communities with their growing needs as the war continues. So our response is really looking at supporting these organizations so they can deliver food and medicine to the organizations, the shelters in need, as well as rebuilding. There's a little bit of rebuilding that they can do right now that is imperative for the animal health and safety. A lot of the shelters have been hit, so really having that core infrastructure developed so that they can continue operations. One thing that's really just really hits home as something is that as the communities are fleeing, the one thing that is staying is the shelters because they can't flee with the animals. I was speaking to a lady who runs a shelter just outside of Kyiv, and she has now 700 animals, and she's taking care of the animals on the streets, and there's nobody around but her and her father, and they are doing everything they can to keep the animals alive and themselves, and it's heartbreaking.
Why do you think animals have become such a central focus for many in this war?
Yeah. Having worked in international humanitarian response for my whole career, I find it fascinating. I've responded in Congo, in South Sudan, in Haiti. This situation is completely different. If you were in Congo supporting in a conflict situation and you ask people what they would need, they'd say food, water, shelter, protection. If you ask people in the Ukraine what they need, they say food, water, shelter, protection, and my dog. I need safety for my dog. That human-animal bond is just something that is rising to the top in this conflict, and it is really bringing animals front and center.
Totally. As a dog owner myself, I could not imagine leaving my pet behind. What are you seeing from your partners in Ukraine?
So the local partners in Ukraine are really, they're exceptional at organizing right now. There's a group of 13 organizations that have come together, and they've created this really amazing platform and database where they're able to track real-time needs of the shelters within the whole country and then organize the logistics to get them supplies. Our one partner yesterday almost delivered supplies to 6,000 animals in Ukraine. So just really, it's an amazing logistical setup that they have. And they're getting all of the supplies through the border in Poland and then bringing it up in a warehouse in Lviv and then distributing throughout the country.
So that's in Ukraine. Now, what are you seeing on the border in Poland?
So we have deployed 2 Canadian veterinarians to assess the situation in Poland and try to identify any gaps. We've been to numerous refugee camps. We even set up a little animal health center in one. And it is astonishing how well the Polish government is doing. They have been so organized. They have really been able to do an exceptional job as animals come in. They're vaccinating, microchipping, and sending everybody on their way. So it's really a transitional setting. We're still assessing in the Medyka border area right now, and we haven't come clear what the needs are there. But what we've seen throughout a lot of the parts of Poland is that the government is doing an amazing job.
So you mentioned you've deployed 2 vets. I understand they are Rob and Elaine Clemenson. Can you tell me a bit about them?
Yeah, so Rob and Elaine they're amazing. They have done clinics with us in Northern Canada for a long time. They're a great team. They can work in a really remote, rural setting and kind of hit the ground running. And they phoned me up and said they wanted to go and do this right after we said that we wanted to send somebody. So they really just dropped everything and were ready to hit the ground running. They haven't been practicing veterinary medicine in Poland. That wasn't the mission that they were set out to do. They're really just going and assessing and networking and finding out where are the gaps. And they're doing an exceptional job at doing that.
Were you surprised at all at how quickly they stood up to help? How did that make you feel?
So I was surprised how quickly they stood up, but what was more surprising is that I've had over 200 other veterinarians say that they will drop everything right now and leave. I've had veterinarians, the majority from Canada, but also from the States and from Europe. It's so heartwarming to see how the animal health sector has really come together in this time.
So the vets that are willing and eager to help as well, do you plan on deploying them too?
So right now we're assessing the need, and within the Polish sphere, we are not seeing a need for additional international veterinarians to go in. We're still looking to see if there's needs for us to be helping out in the Medyka border. This is a very quickly evolving situation. So it's hard to say what our international volunteer needs will be throughout the whole response. But as of right now, we're holding off on putting anybody else on the ground.
And going back to Rob and Elaine, have you heard back from them since? How's it going?
Yeah, I speak to them every half an hour, pretty much, I think. Yeah, they're doing great. They've really become a part of the community. They have a driver that they're using. They have a kind of a house that they're staying at, and the owner's really been helping them find their way. They've been going to the train stations, to the refugee camps, talking to the population. They've been doing a great job.
Good to hear. What kind of safety protocols do you have in place? Was there any fear of what things were going to be like over there?
Yeah, for sure. So in Helm, where they are right now, at the camp where they're staying just beside, there's 130 Polish military. So they have very up-to-date security information. We're also working with an organization called Safer Access, and they're based in Lviv. They're Canadian. And they are security consultants. So they're helping us to understand the situation on the border and the overall context of the war, as well as hopefully being able to support our local partners within the country.
So you recently launched an emergency fundraising campaign. Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, so our fundraising campaign is really about supporting the partners on the ground and our response efforts as things unfold with the war. And we've been utilizing those great dollars to support the partners directly in Ukraine to help the animal situation. So really providing food and medicine, as well as continue their operations as much as possible. And the funds that we have received and been able to deploy has been so well received by the partners. One partner, we sent just a small amount of money, $4,000. They went out within an hour and bought animal food and medicine and then emailed me the receipts for all of their pets. It's just amazing.
There's a lot of dog owners and pet owners here in Canada and BC as well. Do you find that because of that human-animal bond connection you mentioned, you are seeing more people who can relate and are more willing to support?
Absolutely. Putting yourself in the situation of somebody who's trying to flee with their dog. I know myself, I couldn't imagine my cat's right beside me, having to put her in my coat and try to flee with my children. And it just makes you want to do anything you can to help those people because they're in such an awful situation.
So where do you go from here? You mentioned things are constantly changing. What are the next steps?
Yeah, so I think that nobody can predict how the war is going to go from here. What parts of the country will be able to continue aid in, how many people will be fleeing, and how that will change at the border. So I think being able to understand how the network of logistics for supporting the shelters in country rolls out, and having that move in a sustainable way, as well as having a presence so that we can identify as needs change at the border areas and support them. There's been a lot of people who have fled, but there are a lot of people left in Ukraine, and making sure that we support them as they move through this awful situation is key.
And what has been the state of these pets? I could imagine they're quite frightened.
Yeah, so what they're seeing at the Polish border, it changes through the different entry posts, right? In Helm, the animals that have come through that they've seen they've been frightened, and like they haven't been to the bathroom in a long time. They're not seeing a lot of wounded animals. It's more animals that have just really been impacted by the trauma. Where they are now at the border crossing, I've heard that there's up to 30% animals coming through the people. So it'll be interesting to see what they say as far as the needs are there and the animals that are impacted, if they're injured or what the situation is.
Okay, so there are no implications about bringing pets across the border?
That's correct. Right now, pets are allowed to come across the border and transition from Poland as long as they're microchipped and vaccinated, and the Polish government is doing both.
Are there any other ways your organization might help other than with domestic pets?
I think one thing that I'm really trying to understand and identify moving forward is not just the domestic animals, but the farm animals. And I think that's something that hasn't really been touched upon in the response efforts. And I've been trying to reach out to our partners to get a better understanding of what has happened to all the farm animals and how are they doing now? Have they just been released? Are the farmers still there? It's much more difficult to connect with individuals in Ukraine versus the organizations. And it's those individual farmers that we really need to understand the status of and how they are surviving in the land.
And if that is the case, that these Ukrainian farmers do need help for their animals, where would you go from there?
Yeah, so that's a very similar type response program to what we have had in other countries. You're really looking at a food security livestock type programming, which we can definitely do and have done a lot in the past. The thing that is the caveat is the conflict and where it's moving. So you want to make sure that you are being as safe as possible, right? And understanding where the security issue is. Amazing to see how many people want to help out this dire situation. And it really, in a time when things seem so awful, brings that beacon of light to show that humanity is really stepping up.
It certainly does. Well, thank you to my guest, Charmaine Brett-Mills from Veterinarians Without Borders. That's all the time we have today on For the Record. I'm Sadie Chung. You're listening to 1680 The Crow. Take care and best of luck.
extrovertida, sincera, carismática. I have a cute smile. And my hair is very curly.
This is Paulina Fister, a Mexican-Canadian tattoo artist who began learning how to tattoo at the age of 29.
The first, I learned watching videos. This guy, my friend that let me tattoo him, he was teaching me a lot. My dream, it's to have a studio, like a shop, here and in Mexico. Like, if I can do like some kind of tattoo school, that will be awesome. Quiero como marcarle ahí rápido la sombra y luego todo esto también.
She works out of a tattoo studio in East Van with her friend Brenda, who's also a tattoo artist from Mexico.
We are in a studio, like a house. It's purple. Everything's purple here. The walls, the lights, the sofa, the chair. The Jabu is a cat, black cat. She's like a baby, but that's Brenda's fault.
Today she'll be working on 4 different ancient Egyptian designs.
Shaving and cleaning. And you have a lot of hair. Okay, I'm gonna need you to stand up like very straight, like your normal position.
Okay.
And I'm gonna turn around your arm. And I'm gonna push a little bit, okay? I was living in an island in Mexico. The name is Holbox. Like Mexico, it's beautiful. I love it, of course, but it's very difficult to get good money. Even if you study like a good career and you have a good job. For me, it's not work. I used to say, like, my whole life, the day that when I find what I love, I'm not gonna work. It's not gonna be work anymore. I can be here tattooing like for 2 days if I could. When I finish tattooing someone and they're like very, very happy, that's like crazy for me. Like people trusting me that much. It feels really, really good. Like putting your art in someone's body. Obviamente tatuar es parte de, ahora se ha vuelto parte de. Y ya, básicamente eso. Podría decirte 1000 cosas más, pero esas son secretas.
In a performance, the audience often only sees the outer expression of an artist's life. But what happens when the curtains are drawn and the stage lights are turned off?
This room is our church. You know, this is it's our studio. It's a place we come to work, but it's also the same place we come to play, practice, create, experiment, vent when necessary. Yeah, it's a special place.
That's how world-renowned dancer and choreographer Joel Hanna describes the studio of the Vancouver Tap Dance Society. The Society's facade is unassuming, a one-story box-shaped building covered in pinkish paint, sandwiched by a liquor store and a Vietnamese restaurant. Prior to becoming the Society's artistic director, Joel was preparing to perform on international stages.
My summer was already pre-booked in New York, and I was supposed to be going back to Asia, and then there were some wonderful European gigs that I was going to be doing that year.
But as the pandemic hit, stages all over the world began to cancel their shows, and the lights slowly faded out.
So in a moment where there was so much uncertainty, no way of saying how long or knowing how long or what it was going to be like, I chose discipline. I would wake up every morning. I would meditate for a half hour. Then I would read for 2 hours. Then I would take 2 courses. For me, I decided to focus on video editing and creation and coding. And then I would come to the studio and I would dance for about 2 or 3 hours. Then I would go home and I would play guitar for about another hour or 2. And then I would meditate for about another hour at night, and then I would go to bed. And I did that every day.
That daily discipline of creating outside of dance led Joel to explore other creative projects. Joel allowed himself to play.
Like it's wonderful. We got playtime forced on us for 2 years, and it was wonderful if you were willing to shift the narrative.
Joel was eventually tapped to lead the Society's branding and marketing.
I wasn't technically late.
Wow.
I'm not supposed to be here before.
I come in, it's like, and I've been a friend of the Tap Dance Society for a long time, about 25 years. And at different stages, been in here as a teenager, as a teenager? As a teacher and as a choreographer and a guest artist in most of the shows, and then they eventually just asked me to take it over. And the importance of exposing yourself to other things, other forms of inspiration or information, and just allowing that time for that child to just come out and play and make it okay. The concept of just goofy playfulness, which we all are. We're all idiots. Like every dancer I've ever known, especially if they were just extraordinary at it, we're all goofballs.
Calm down! You need to be cool! I'm not crazy!
Well, did you record that? Yeah.
Sorry, I'm running already. Come on!
The inward process of it, that exploration, that honesty, we forget about sometimes because of that need for the outward expression and the ticking of all those boxes, like we're some sort of mechanism or a machine. We're not. So all of these, like the time, to turn inward and to really explore a lot of the projects, concepts, or ideas that you didn't get to before because maybe they weren't deemed worthy of performance, and those aborted creative ideas, it gives you time to go back into them, and those things can give you the kind of inspiration that allow you to keep going. and that excitement to get back in and just play.
I'm Karisa Cheng with Astrid Agbayani and Jay Zabanel for 1680 The Crow.
From the Broadcast Center at BCIT's Burnaby Campus, this is All Talk Radio. You're listening to 1680 The Crow.
Hello, I'm Riley Lyons, and this is your news and sports update for 1 o'clock. A Surrey bylaw banning political signs from private property is being challenged in court today after a protest organization filed a petition against the regulation. Reporter Maham Hashmi has more.
The trial commenced at 10 a.m. this morning in the Supreme Court of BC, where the organization called Keep the RCMP in Surrey is fighting to prove that the bylaw is unconstitutional. The biggest concern being addressed in court today is the infringement on residents' rights to freedom of expression under Canada's Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Surrey's Mayor Doug McCallum and his council amended the bylaw back in October. The protest group has been in constant legal battles with the mayor and his council. Maham Hashmi, 1680 The Crow.
The Vancouver mayor has called a special council meeting to address violent crime in the city. The meeting is set to take place on Thursday. The motion was first put forward by Vancouver City Councillor Melissa DiGenova after the city's police chief warned of a surge in violent crime. In the special meeting, the councillors plan to discuss methods of reducing violent crime in the city. The meeting will have a number of groups participating, including the VPD, city staff, the Board of Parks and Recreation, and BC Housing has been invited but has not responded at this time. Councillor DiGenova says the meeting will discuss CCTV systems in the city and necessary funding for the VPD to effectively crack down on violent crime. Today, Ryerson University in Toronto announced that they're changing their name to Toronto Metropolitan University. The university was named after one of the primary architects of the residential school system, Egerton Ryerson. The university has seen protests for decades demanding a name change due to the effects of residential schools on Indigenous people across the country. Vice Chancellor Mohammed Lachemi said that the name change is perfect as it highlights the school as an urban institution that aims to make everyone feel welcome, represented, and celebrated. The U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris has tested positive for COVID-19. Karen Travers reports.
Her office says in a statement she's exhibited no symptoms and will isolate and continue to work from her residence. The vice president's office also says Harris has not been a close contact to President Biden or the First Lady due to their respective travel schedules recently. Her spokeswoman says she'll return to the White House when she tests negative. Harris has received 4 COVID-19 vaccine shots, the original 2-dose vaccine and 2 booster shots, the most recent administered on April 1st. Karen Travers, ABC News, Washington.
And now in sports news, the Canucks will not have Thatcher Demko in the net tonight against the Seattle Kraken due to an injury. Spencer Martin is set to start in the net while Demko is listed as day-to-day while the severity of his injury is still undisclosed. Head coach Bruce Boudreau made the announcement at the Canucks press conference today.
He's being evaluated. Right now it's just day-to-day, you know. He's got a little bit of a ouch, but he's not going to be playing tonight.
The Canucks are sitting 6 points behind the Dallas Stars for the final wildcard spot. However, with just 3 games left to play, each game needs to be a win. Russia will no longer be holding the 2023 World Ice Hockey Championship in St. Petersburg as it was previously planned. According to the International Ice Hockey Federation, the freedom and movement of the competitors is a real concern. This is another major sporting event that's been pulled from Russia and relocated due to Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The 2023 World Juniors Hockey Championship was also supposed to be held in Russia, but was canceled about a month ago. There are 3 NBA playoff games going on tonight. The Miami Heat have the chance to eliminate the Atlanta Hawks on home court. That game starts at 4. At 4:30, the Minnesota Timberwolves and Memphis Grizzlies will break the 2-2 series tie. The New Orleans Pelicans and Phoenix Suns will do the same at 7 o'clock in Phoenix. One more bit of basketball news. Chicago Bulls guard Zach LaVine is expected to miss tomorrow's all-important Game 5 due to health and safety protocols. And for the weather today, you're going to see a risk of thunderstorms later in the day with a high of 11 degrees expected to come in this afternoon. Tomorrow, you can expect to see a little bit more rainfall with a small chance of some cloud coverage. We will also be seeing some sunshine with a little cloud cover on Thursday and Friday, with rainfall coming later into the weekend. We'll also be expecting a little bit of a rainfall continuing into the week with a chance of heavy showers on Wednesday. I'm Riley Lyons, and you're listening to 1680 The Crow.
Stay tuned for more on BCIT's 1680 The Crow.